Hi, my name is Greg Radjic, and today I'm going to show you how to write a series of books using Book Memory Bank. I've created a series of YouTube videos on how to create books with AI. The last one was about a month ago. That would have been around mid-July, beginning of July. And it's a complete end-to-end workflow of how to create a book with Cline, with the AI, with VS Code. I recommend looking at those videos if you want to actually see the entire process. Today I'm just going to focus on doing a series. It's going to be a fairly short video in comparison. So this is really, there's two types of scenarios you can do. One would be creating a series of loosely connected books, which is the thing I've actually done. I've created a 3-book series using this process. I'm going to start book 4 here. And what you really want to do is you want to take the characters forward. You want to take some knowledge of the past stories and books forward. You want to take the style and some of the information forward, but you don't want to. You're not continuing a story. You want to just take little pieces of it, and so that's actually a little easier than the second scenario, which that's actually continuing a story. So imagine if you had a 300-page book. At the end of the book, it ends, but you have a cliffhanger. So you want to go ahead and actually take the cliffhanger, chapter 30, and start chapter essentially 31 in a new book. That's a little bit more work. With AI, it's actually probably not in time-wise. It's just a little bit different process, a little bit more lift. So I'm going to start with the first scenario, which is taking a book and creating a series that's loosely connected. I currently have a 3-book series that's published, Maya Chen series. And so the goal here is to take the main character, who she is, what her history is, how she talks, how she behaves in the book, how she relates to other characters in the book. We're going to bring all that forward. We may bring 6 secondary characters forward, and then we're going to want to at least keep a little bit of knowledge of what happened in the last book, and maybe a little bit less, but some knowledge in previous books. So it's really the goal of this first step. All right, so you can see I've got VS Code open. Again, look at the other videos on how to see this, but I've essentially created a new directory. I added it in VS Code as a workspace. I've copied all the configuration files over. I'm ready to go. So one note for previous viewers, Cline's changed what they've done a little bit. They've created these workspace rules and then kind of workflows. And so if you go down here in Cline, this little tiny icon, Manage Cline Rules and Workflows. If you click on that, you can see I have Author Rules, Memory Bank, MD. The Book Memory Bank is the old instructions to Cline. It was .Cline Rules. And that's the one that essentially runs the memory bank. Cline, when it does things, will pick these up. This is originally annoying to me because it was new things, and now I actually like it quite a bit. They've also moved to an MCP server generally for memory bank as how they're doing it, but you can use the old way, which is I'm going to do still for various reasons. There's also workflows. So 3 important things that I do a lot that I don't want to keep repeating as next chapter. So write the next chapter, and I'll show that in a minute. I want to update memory bank, and I want to go ahead and check style. And so you can create these. You can create a new one here if you wanted to take a look at that. So if you look at, for example, next chapter, as you can see, this has got a lot more complex than my last video. This is really, I've really been trying to be hardcore about style and making sure it's looking at world and characters, and it's really using memory bank because it gets a little weird and flaky sometimes. So this is my attempt to do that. The book I'm currently working on, it's a sci-fi book. It's been super consistent, and this is kind of the best I've ever had so far in next chapter. Check style. One thing I've noticed is even when you use a good prompt like that, it can improve style of the chapter. So what I do a lot, it's a little frustrating, and I wish it would work just straight up one time. But I write the chapter, and then I go through it again, and I just check style. It's a very simple prompt, but it's basically taking the style guides and information about the characters and verifying. And it will generally make the writing better. You can do it iteratively. You can do it 2 or 3 times. The first one usually picks up a fair amount, and the second slide is helpful. The last is update memory bank, and that's just this. I used to just type this. It's not a big deal, but I can certainly, this is kind of convenient. All right, so if you go to the folder structure here, what I've done is I've taken the last book, and I've just copied the memory bank. So Book Memory Bank has all this knowledge about the characters, the plots, the storylines, the kind of the meta of what the book is. So I'm going to start working based on that. And then I've also created or copied the outline. So this is primarily the master outline and chapter outlines. I've done this a few different ways. I've made it a subdirectory with the old book name. I had it kind of seed off that. and then create a new one, but it kind of leaves cruft behind. And so what I've done is I'm going to go ahead and have it do what I want for the next book. And as part of the process, I'm going to have it clear out the old stuff. So it's going to kind of see the new book, create a new memory bank based on the old one, and then continue on. All right, so let's get started. Open Cline. Again, if you want to need to install it, I would Google it or use ChatGPT or look at my other videos. They all can help. In settings here, I've done something a little different. In plan mode, I'm doing a different model. So I use Claude Opus. 4.1 dropped, like, I think today. It looks pretty good. I haven't done a lot with it. I've done a lot with the old Opus 4.0. It's very good at reasoning. It's very good at thinking. So when you're planning things, it is the best I've seen. So when I'm in plan mode, which is where I normally want to do reasoning and thinking, I put it in Opus. In act mode, I'm currently using Sonnet 4. I would love to use Opus across the board. I think they're both really good at writing. Opus probably maybe a little better, but Opus is like 10x the cost, which isn't actually quite true, but it's very expensive. So a book that's $40 could be $120 for Opus. And so I'm trying to be a little cost conscious. This is all on my dime here. I don't have anybody paying to do these, so this is me doing this and for my enjoyment and to learn how to do this. And so I'm kind of being a little careful. So you can choose whatever you want. Gemini's okay, ChatGPT's okay. Just whatever's a frontier model, whatever's out there new, which is just a cutting edge. When I say frontier, generally it's the biggest and best. You can even do local models, but your results aren't going to be great. So click done. All right, okay then. So your first prompt's important. Make sure the first few sentences are readable and useful because this is going to show up what's in history here. If you don't do that, it can be hard to find things. You can search; it's kind of a pain. So I try to make it, useful. Don't put in "I want to write a book." That'll work, but then you won't be able to find it. So I'm telling you how to complete the mystery series. I probably don't need to say mystery. I mentioned that we'll create a new book. I'd like to bring everything about the main character forward, so her background, style, speaking, etc. I did reference the name. Probably don't actually need to. It's smart enough it'll figure that out on its own. I want to bring the overall style of the book forward, and she needs to be aware of what happened in the first and second books. Everything else should be forgotten. And then I just ask it, what do we need to make that happen? I kind of know what the answer is, but the AI is useful that it will help kind of guide you through it the right way. So you don't want to be too rigid. It should look at what's there, try to figure out the best way based on information. So based on your book, the answer of what do we need to do might be different than based on what I'm doing. So I again recommend it to give it some freedom there. Always start in plan mode for this. So it's going to use Opus 4.1, and then it's going to go ahead and think about it. So we're going to have a discussion. This isn't going to actually do anything in plan mode. It shouldn't. This is more of us having a little chat about what we want to do. So go ahead and click go. So this is going to hit Opus, and it's going to give it that prompt, and then it's going to do some things, which is really like, again, it's going to think and reason. It's going to look at what's currently in the files in memory bank currently. So it just picked up, what was there. That's great. It's going to read all of that and try to understand what happened before, and then it's going to make suggestions on how to make the new book. All right, great. It did a brilliant job, which is not unexpected, and I'd be interested in what Opus 4.1 is going to do for me here. So this will be cool. So I went ahead and looked at the memory bank. It figured out who she is, her background, a description, her mannerisms, her speech patterns, and voice. As I mentioned in their video, style is absolutely critical to these. It's very important in the overall style. You have rules to kind of make the book feel like a human's writing. You don't want an AI written book, basically. It's also really important that each character has their own voice. You don't want everybody to sound the same, and so they need to have rules about how they speak. So it's going to pull that forward. It talks about the personal evolution through the books. I'm not going to detail on that, but she started in one space mentally and as a person, and grew over the different books, and so it should have reflected that. She's not very strongly in her profession. She knows what she's doing. She's very confident, which is very different than the first book. Personal quirks, again, how she does things. Who is she? And who is she as a person? I'm going to keep the same writing style. So French, Flynn's, and Atkinson. They're three fairly famous mystery. This is not copying them. Again, I want to emphasize this, as I mentioned before. This is essentially taking the style of them. So it's not going to take their characters. It's not taking their storylines. It's just kind of how they write. So if you read all three of these authors, you could probably write a book if you're good enough, like Flynn. If you're not copying Flynn, you're writing a book, you're imitating him. You're writing a book like him. And it's so I'm blending the three styles together. You could actually define what their styles were and just say do that, but this is like a shorthand to that style. Again, voice and tone guidelines, those are the overall ones, not specific to the person. Grammar formatting, they're things the AI does, it's super annoying, and it's trying to not do those things is bad. How the dialogue works, the narrative approach, we're going to do third person from Maya's POV, so that's great. So the first three books are Blackwood, Ghost Passenger, Market Murder. So it's going to have references to that. Her rep, that she's now become this impossible case. She's actually become like kind of famous after the second book and definitely after the third one. Involved with the FBI, and then again her growth. So it's going to create a new brief, new world characters, new story structure, new outlines, and new active context. So this is actually exactly what I wanted. I could have gone and told it to do this, but it figured it out really well. So it's going to say exactly the steps it's going to go through. So again, it's kind of planning out and thinking what it needs to do here. And so it's asked some questions, which I'm going to put some answers in. So again, I'm not going to write the whole book. I'm just going to literally get it started and show you how to do this, and then you can look at the other videos of how to do the rest of it. So she's originally from South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina. I actually lived there for a few years. This is why the first book referenced that, but she's never been there in one of the books. So I thought, maybe that'd be kind of cool, see what it does. I want to do a serial killer case. She hasn't done that before in the book, so that's interesting. Personal stakes is part of her journey. And so she's from here. She grew up there. So I'm hoping it picks up on that. If it does, then it hopefully will be some family-related thing. If it doesn't pick up on that, I'll probably direct it in that direction and say, hey, she's from there, involve her parents or a sibling or something like that. And then it's going to be 3 months after the last book, so not too far, pretty quickly after it. All right, so again, I'm happy with what it did. I don't actually have any feedback at all on the plan, and I've kind of answered these questions. If you wanted to add additional things here, like if you already have a firm idea of the story, then this is the place you go ahead and just do it. Palmetto Killer, that's great. Columbia or South Carolina is a palmetto state, and so that actually was kind of a cool thing. That's a reasonable title. So I'm not going to modify this. Normally I'd iterate quite a bit to get the concept and what's going to be in the book and like the outline. In this case, again, I'm just more demoing how to do this and not going to write the book. I might actually write the book eventually, but this is the start. So you can see the Southern drawl, which she's stressed. Great to pick that up. State capital, University of South Carolina, historic downtown with 5 points. These are, again, as someone who's lived there, I'm like, wow, okay, amazing. Congaree River, yeah, mix of old and new, very hot and humid. Summer suck there. That's why I live in Seattle now, because I just despise the heat and humidity. Someone from her past. So again, high school friend, yeah, this is perfect, because I think it picked up on her being from there. Yeah, her mother still lives there. So this is great. It's actually, again, picking that up. So I can pick these, and I'll do it in a second. Let's see. Targeting successful people looks good. Great, looks good. The hook looks good. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. All right, so I'll answer these questions, and then we'll go ahead and let it actually act and see what it does. All right, so I asked some questions. They're pretty good. As someone who lived there, these are good questions. Like USC, talking about how hot and humid is there. Students returning football season. It's huge in Columbia, Gamecocks. And so this is all really good. It's really tracking very well on this. So, all right, again, generating more information. This all looks good. I did ask a couple questions. I really like the Gamecock Killer. That might actually be a good name for the book. I need to see on Gamecock if I can use that as a name without getting some legal issues. If you look at the previous videos, I go into how to actually detect and analyze that kind of thing. And again, this looks fine. So it's consistent with the other books. All right, I'm going to answer one question again, Gamecock Killer. We'll do that. I'll update a little bit of information, and then I'm going to go into act mode. Okay, again, this looks good. One thing if we're going to do the Gamecock part, it's going to align a lot with the actual like games and homecoming and all that. So what I want to do is I want to give it a page of actual game information for this year. And that'll be interesting because it'll kind of align to that. So I gave it a URL. I've already found that. I could probably ask it, it would do it. So one of the cool things AI can do now is act as a researcher. I'm specifically using ChatGPT 4.0 in research mode for this. And so what I did is I told it what I'm doing, and I'm writing a series of books about murders related to Gamecock games in Columbia, South Carolina. So I went ahead and prompted it. You can see the prompt here. And then it asked me basically a simple question, and then it did the research. And you can see over here, it actually did an amazing job. I've been really surprised at the research capabilities of this. And you can see it came up with a really detailed events and social events and plans around Gamecock games. And so I think by using this information, I can really enhance the story with real things that happen. Now I realize for a lot of readers, this isn't real pertinent. They don't care like when with the dates and the name of the events and stuff. But it's kind of cool having the book grounded in real things that are happening. Plus, if you're from that area and interested, this will really bring a lot of local flavor to the book. So all I did is I went ahead and created an MD file with the overview. So you can see here, it's a simple list. And then I went ahead and created a PDF. The PDF I'm not going to bring up, but is essentially what you saw on the other page. So it's a lot of details about what the events are and who goes to it and what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it to take that. So I'm going to say, add a detailed information about events related to games, tell about the summary and the details, and then I want it to read both files and basically just interesting ways of using them. All right, great. I went ahead and added all this information, which the AI tends to be very positive, but I actually agree it's phenomenal information added. It is really solid details. Looking through this, I recognize a lot of the local events, restaurants. It really added a grounding in what's there locally. I think again, I'm not actually more interested in writing this book just because it looks like it's going to have a lot of local information. I can go ahead and modify the outline and really kind of make this something interesting. I have a friend that actually runs a restaurant there, so I'm going to ask it to go ahead and add that. Great. So again, it's kind of adding things in, and I may actually add some additional things as I go through this. The favorite places I was at. This is kind of amusing and fun that it did this. I actually decided to go add some additional information. So I added a restaurant in a building. It actually got the wrong restaurant, which I'll fix. And it actually did a really good job at the building. It's kind of a cool apartment location. So I corrected it to the right one. You can see here that it added that in. So great. This looks really good. So again, this has just been a discussion with the AI at this point. We haven't actually really written anything besides the research I added. So what you're going to do is normally you'd probably iterate down with the outline and going into some character information and plot information. In this case, I moved to act mode. Act mode will take all the things we just did and go do something with it. In this case, it'll go ahead and actually create the new memory bank, new outline, and get started. So let's go to move to act mode. So it cranked through this. It looks pretty good. It updated memory bank. It preserved a lot of information. I did do something a little weird. I use Get for this. It's a little easier to compare. You can use Cline directly to do comparisons, but I'm going to use this. So it created this character preservation structure, which I thought was super interesting. So it's essentially all the pertinent information about the main character, the books, and all the rest. And then went ahead and updated the other files. So again, you can see it originally had all these chapters, word counts, and completion, and all the rest of it. You can see here it's all new. So this is Act 1, Act 2, so new chapters, new information. Project brief again. It went in and rewrote. What is the book? What is the book about? Story structure. Same thing. It went ahead and it did a correct job here. And role of characters is the last one. I did notice that it did not refresh the outline, so that's going to be an issue. Let me go and actually verify that physically. Obviously, these are old now. Yeah, this looks like the old one. So it looks like this is wrong. So I'm going to have to go in and have it redo these. All right, great. I went and did that. So you can see here, again, it went through what it did. If you go to the files, you can look at master outline right here. This is the book. It is the outline. That looks really good. So I think at this point the book is set. I'll go ahead and kick off the first chapter just to go ahead and try that. One thing I'm doing different right now is I used to have it write the chapter outlines and then the chapter, just one after the other. So chapter one outline and then the actual chapter writing. A lot of it was to be able to point check to see if the chapter was going to be correct. And it just reduced the amount of time. I happen to read pretty fast, so I've got to kind of change it. Both cost less is actually a little faster to just go ahead and have it write each chapter. So I have it, the new prompt, which is much more precise, and then I have it look at the actual master outline. So all I do is I just run next chapter. So that's a command. Again, this is something in Cline now we're doing. That will run that prompt, which again, just to remind you, is this prompt. So it just did this essentially. So that looks good. All right, and then it also updated world and characters. This is pretty critical. You can see again that it developed information. This is the creative part of the AI right now. We see appearance of creativity. I didn't tell it to do any of this. It obviously created Maya's character. I didn't have the name. It got details about her. This is when we originally did the initial creation. Now in this chapter, it went ahead and decided some things about her style. Courtesy, her network, emotional cadence, places she goes. Again, the other characters are having the same kind of treatment. So over time, this will develop and get more information. And again, this is utterly critical that to stay consistent for the rest of the book, this information's there. All right, so I went ahead and created a new directory for the book I'm going to do, where I'm going to continue. This is actually Ropa Discovery. Which I published a little while ago. I actually ran a bit of an issue here, which I hope we can resolve, is the memory bank I used in that one is an old one. It's like 3 or 4 iterations ago, so it's very different. I moved on quite a bit. I've really changed how that works, which is a good thing, but we need to convert it. Again, I have a folder here that I've created. This time I actually went and created the entire book into a separate directory. A lot of it's because of that conversion. I'm worried if I make it the main directory with the essentially bad memory bank, with the wrong, it's got essentially the wrong files, that'll be a problem. I could go back and use that one and just go with it, but I think the new one's good enough and better enough that I want to go ahead and use it. So I'm going to go ahead and instruct it to do that. One additional thing, GPT-5 dropped today. So I am going to go ahead and use that for both plan and act mode. We'll see how that goes. If it doesn't, I'll restart this and go ahead and use backend Opus and Sonnet. All right. So as I mentioned, I went ahead and continued the book I've done. I've told it where the original book is, and it's got all the information. I told it it has an old format. I need to convert it. Again, this may be nothing you have to do here if you're using the current one, but this stuff always evolves, so you may have to do something like this. I want to continue where the story left off. I want to bring all the characters, knowledge, the story, using master outlines and the chapter outlines forward. And it's critical that it maintains consistency. The stories, the characters, and with their background, style of speaking, events, places, etc. So again, I'm going to ask it, what should we do? So I'm going to go ahead and move to plan mode and ask that question. All right, so GPT-5 did an amazing job. I kind of now want to go use Claude to see. This is extremely good. So came up with a plan. So it's going to audit the materials, review memory bank, review the original information about chapters. I did a great plan of converting. So I just looked at this, and this actually looks really good about what files map to what files now. So that was brilliant. It looks like again, memory bank's going to be set. That's probably my biggest worry right now. It's going to go ahead and bring the original outlines and chapter outlines forward. So that's interesting to see what we're going to do there. We may want to go ahead and truncate those or get rid of them. I don't know on that one's going to be interesting. It's almost like maybe start a new master outline, but if we keep the original one and make a hell of more context, so we'll have to play with that a little bit. Establish where we left off. So let's go to the last chapter to see where we're at and try to get like a good, this is where we are in the story, and then it's going to prepare book 2 and go ahead and basically a continuation plan. So that sounds really good. It looks like it's going to maybe do a new master outline suggesting, or maybe keep it the same one. It's the same thing I just said. It's the same kind of stuff. And so it's got exactly what it's going to do. So this all looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and say yeah. Generally in agreement with what it's doing. I've looked through this. It's a lot of information. So I've already read it once. It looks pretty good. And so it's kind of, let's just go ahead and try and see what happens. This is always something we can choose to change later if necessary. So we're going to move to act mode and let it go ahead and process. All right, great. It finished. That actually took a fair amount of time. I did notice it's only at $2.45, which actually, if I'd been an Opus, it would have been like $30, so or something like that. So yay. So it made a lot of changes. So this is taking me a while just to go through. I'm using Git here. I recommend adding this in VS Code if adding a repository for this. It's just handy. It looked like it got rid of a lot of crap, so things that would not be really needed for this. I went ahead and actually created an active context in progress, which it looks like it updated that correctly. It did a story structure, so it took the original book and created something new. Now, I haven't really defined the story, and I'm probably today not going to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and not get too detailed on that. But normally you'd go in and probably iterate on with the story because it just did something. It did a very good job of bringing the characters and the world forward. So I've reviewed this. This looks like what was there before. The format's changed a fair amount with Memory Bank, which is expected. Different models do this differently. Even the same model will do it differently sometimes. World and outline look good. Let's see. So it got rid of, again, a lot of stuff here that's not needed for this, which is specific to the original book. The big one is at the bottom of this list. It went ahead and created a new master outline. So I've looked at that. I don't know if I like the story it's going with. This originally was a little bit of a sci-fi horror, and it kind of turned into this kind of kumbaya thing that the AI likes doing towards the end. It was interesting in the first book. It just kind of continues it. So I probably want to work with the story quite a bit. But that's not the point of what I'm doing here. The point is to make a continuation of a book that makes sense when you're actually doing essentially like the next chapter based on the end of the book, unlike the first scenario I did. And then it created an outline. And this looked pretty good. So it's giving me some options. I can go ahead and I can readjust the outline. Again, this is probably what I would do if I was going to actually do this book. I'm not going to right now. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to write the next chapter. So chapter 1. This will be interesting because this is my first time using GPT-5 to actually do prose, to actually write something. So far, it's just done the outlining and the thinking. So this will be an interesting experiment. All right, so I went and created the first chapter. So I went and looked at the last chapter of the book, read through it. It got funky because it had this kind of abstract consciousness thing going on when it kind of combined the two consciousness between the AI and the human, and so it was kind of weird. It looks like the new chapter actually does that very well, the we I thing. That's cool. Reading it, I actually like the what it's written. It actually looks pretty good. The dialogue's good. The problem I'm going to run into here is that the way the person's talking now it's just different because of it's kind of this weird consciousness thing. So it's really kind of hard to judge some of the writing because of that. I'm going to go ahead and continue. I may play with this a little bit more and do another chapter from another point of view, but I actually, for what it's doing, it did very well. I did notice one problem. It looks like the memory bank files aren't aligning very well with the new file names because it's like master outline 2, and I'm just not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it. Again, if you find something's weird, don't try to screw with it yourself. Just ask the AI to go figure out like what's wrong. It may come back and say, yeah, everything's fine, you just don't understand this is why, or it may come back and actually have an answer for that. Okay, it took a look, and sure enough, it actually agreed that yes, in fact, things are wrong. It had put a 2 after a lot of things, so like chapters of book 2 or master outline 2. So quick change, pretty simple. The nice thing here is going through all the files and updating them. So I think this worked pretty well. I would like to take another book and give it another try. The problem is some of the books that could be continued, like probably Superior Intelligence would be the best one. Wasn't using book memory bank. It was my book Bible technique, and it was pre-memory bank before I actually created that. So it's going to be a little tougher to do that. I would have, maybe my next video would be how to take an existing book and create a memory bank for it that aligns, which actually should be fairly straightforward. But this worked pretty well. So if I want to go work on this, I can. This one, again, I'm not very interested in continuing the book itself, just because what it is. It wasn't meant to have another book. The Maya Chen series, again, it's on book 3 already, so this is a thing I'm already doing. And then the fourth book, because of the location and what it's done and some of the research I've already done, actually looks super interesting to me. So I'm probably going to continue that. So thanks for watching. I enjoyed doing this series work. This will probably be the last one I do on fiction books for a while. I mostly focus on doing nonfiction, which had a lot of different challenges. And I've actually done one book so far. I'm trying to generalize things a little bit more, and my next video will probably be how to do nonfiction books. So that'll be kind of an interesting thing to take a look at. So thank you very much.